So the three letters VPN stand for Virtual Private Network. Okay, that sounds pretty simple, but what is a virtual private network? Well, let's start off with what a network is. You have a computer, you have something else, another computer. This kind of represents a server or something out in the cloud or the web. And you've got a network that connects the two devices together. And we use the internet, and the internet assigns what's called an internet protocol address to computers on a network. So every computer on a network has what's called an IP address, and that's how the network finds computers and how it can send things back and forth. So that's the basic network part of a VPN. Now, the internet is one kind of network. Okay, there are quite a few kinds of networks, but the internet is one. If you take a cable and connect it to a computer, another computer, you've got a network. You don't have to be on the internet. The internet is a kind of network, and you usually use an internet service provider in your home or office to get you from your home or office out to things that are on the internet. Now, the internet is considered a public network, and traffic messages that go back and forth over the internet are unencrypted, meaning unless you have software on your computer that encrypts a message, which something like Gmail encrypts a message when you send messages by Gmail. And so, but it's a public network, so messages could be intercepted if they were not concealed in some way, because everybody can get access to the internet that gets an internet service provider and gets an ISP. And so software encrypts messages a lot, like email and web communications. When you see the S in HTTPS for websites, secure websites, that means they're encrypted. And that means that you can send and receive credit card information and it can't be accessed. If it wasn't encrypted, somebody could actually capture the data and it wouldn't be secure. So that encryption is really important when we use software that does that. Now, things on the internet that we typically get to, websites, online services, for them to be visible on the internet, they have to be public on the internet. And so that's part of the public part of it that we consider. And when we get to the internet through our computer or smartphone or tablet, we are accessing publicly available resources. It's not, a website's not private when it's on the internet. You might have to log in and get a username or password, but the actual visibility of the website isn't private. So you can go to Amazon or Apple or Microsoft or other websites and find them. A private network is a different kind of network. So you might have a computer or a smartphone or a tablet. Say you worked for a company or a school like Saddleback College, or you worked for Rogers Communications, which is a telecommunications provider in Canada, and you wanted your employees to be able to get to resources that you have within your organization. They are privately owned. So you own computers where people can keep files, and you can keep student records, you can keep private information, you can keep employee logs and other things like that. That's considered a private network. And you connect to it through privately owned connections. So you could have a privately owned cable on a campus like Saddleback College or McGill College or other colleges that go from a faculty member's office directly to computers in a computer room that are owned by the college, and they aren't accessible over the internet. So there are a lot of private networks that are used. There's actually a lot of cables running under our streets and wires and et cetera. And they're used by company offices. They're used by colleges, as I mentioned. And also they're used a lot by retail store chains. A friend of mine works in the satellite industry, and if you go to like a gas station or a fast food restaurant, they usually have a satellite dish on the top. They don't like to use the internet to send their transaction data back to their corporate office. They use a privately owned network. They buy access through a privately owned network. And so none of that information ever goes over the internet. If you buy something at Costco, it goes to Costco's corporate headquarters over a private network that they rent or lease a cable and communication so that it's only used by them. And that's very secure. It's very safe. It's not over the internet, and nobody else can get to it unless they hack into their computers somehow. And it happens, but not that often, fortunately. So we've got a network and we've got a private network. Now, how do we get this virtual part into here? Okay, a virtual network connects a computer to another computer, and it uses the internet, but it uses software to create a network inside of a network. It's often called a tunnel by people in the tech industry, but we're actually using the internet, but we're creating a private network within the internet for our communications. And the way we do it is we use encryption software on both computers so that we can use encryption software on our laptop or our smartphone, and we connect to another computer that understands that encryption and can interpret it and understand what's in the message. So it actually creates a network inside of a network using software. And that's where the virtual part comes from, because it's not actually a separate cable like a retail store or a campus network. It's using encryption over the internet to make sure that those messages can only be read and interpreted and understood by the two computers that know what the encryption software is. So if you've got the ability to do this, what you can do is you can create something, but the internet's public. So with this public internet, how do we take advantage and use a VPN? Well, we got to make it private somehow. And so what we do is we take encryption software that we buy from a VPN service like Norton or TunnelBear or Nord or many others, and we connect our computer we launch our VPN software, and that gives us an encrypted virtual communication path to the VPN service. And that's how we connect, but we're just connecting to the VPN service at first. What the VPN service does is it decrypts the message. So we want to go to a website, we want to visit someplace, we want to, try and watch some TV overseas, and it takes care of sending the message over the internet for us because it's a public network and it's not encrypted at that point. Then it comes back to the VPN service, and then the VPN service encrypts it and sends it back to us. So there's actually two sides to the network when you're using a virtual private network, and you have to use a VPN service in order to enable a virtual private network. Now, the internet can only see the VPN service and the VPN service's IP address. They do not know who we are from our own IP address. So you can be in Toronto and you can log on to the internet and you can log on, enable your VPN service, say in Miami. And as far as the internet is concerned, you'll be in Miami. I can be in Spain. If I launch my VPN service here and I say I want to be in Los Angeles, the internet will think I'm in Los Angeles, not in Spain, because the internet relies on the IP address to determine your location. Now, there are other ways of determining location, but that's one of the main things that the internet sees, is determining your location based on your IP address. So you are concealing your IP address when you use a VPN. So one of the reasons to use one, obviously, is to conceal the IP address, and it encrypts the data to a certain point, it encrypts it to the VPN service. And then why would you use it? Well, if you're using a public Wi-Fi network, say in a coffee shop or in a hotel, and you don't want to take a chance on anything being, hacked or cracked or anything like that, that would be one reason why you'd use a VPN. And if you don't want your ISP to track you, you would want to, you wouldn't want to use a VPN, because ISPs do collect data, internet service providers collect data about websites you visit and activities you do on the internet based on the fact that you're using their service. So that might be reasons to use a VPN. So one caution is that not all VPNs are really private. So just because software says it's a virtual private network doesn't mean it's really private. I'll explain a few things to you. I read this article in the New York Times about the VPN networks they recommended and the research they did on it. They have a service called Wirecutter, and they did some evaluations of VPNs. Turns out that over 50% of the free VPNs you can get online or through app stores are owned by China. And China will collect data on your internet traffic. The VPN will forward that data to China for data collection, and so don't go with a free service is the message here, okay? VPNs also have privacy policies. Some of them go through audits and check to make sure that they clean up data and remove information that might have been used to track people. And it's not a tool for anonymity. Okay, so if you're considering being a reporter, or you're writing about articles that may be sensitive and you don't want people to know who you are, or you're posting comments on websites and you don't want people to know who you are and be able to track you back through your email, a VPN is not going to anonymize you. There are other more sophisticated services that really are required for that. And so VPNs serve a purpose. They can, give you a more secure connection to the internet, but they aren't going to make you anonymous. Streaming services may block VPNs. And so streaming services like Netflix and Hulu and Paramount and Disney, they license content based on a country by country basis, usually, so that a movie that was produced, say, by 20th Century Fox might be licensed to Netflix in the United States, but may not be licensed to Netflix, for example, in Germany. And so the streaming services sometimes try and block VPNs if they detect that you are coming in through an IP address they've identified with a VPN, because VPNs have to use IP addresses that stay the same. They may block your access to that streaming services. I've been able to watch Paramount Plus here in Spain without using a VPN. And I've been able to launch Apple TV Plus here in Spain because it's tied to my Apple ID. But my Apple TV Plus account does not indicate any other streaming services that I normally use to track shows I watch through Apple TV. But you might not get all the content that you have in your native country.